So yeah, coming from a contemporary background, I'm kind of coming from the other way. I guess most people working with us at the moment have started from Dabke. So with contemporary, for me, it's always been about being able to convey something, whether it be something abstract or narrative. It's always about communication to from yourself outwards. But I think in the context of why I'm working with Hawiyya and El-Funoun and is working with Dabke and contemporary, I think it's a really special combination, and especially in the context that we're in of kind of and a culture that is being oppressed and suppressed. So the number one reason I think, with contemporary, using it as a tool for to bring out this Palestinian narrative of their struggle, I think that's a perfect tool for that, because although Dabke is beautiful and it's really connected to that Palestinian culture, to its history, it can be something that's kind of, oh, that was in the past, and it's not it does of course play its role for today, in that you can link it back to identity, but what contemporary does is really bring it into the current context, and it can give space to give a voice for the Palestinians to audiences that wouldn't possibly go to see straight up Dabke or something. They may actually want to go and see contemporary, and then we can bring that narrative through more. And it's also saying that no, the oppressors or the occupiers or colonizers, however you want to define it, they have not taken the Palestinian culture, and they have not erased them completely. They still are current. They still have a space in society which is current. It's not all just about the past. Palestinians still exists, and their culture hasn't been erased, but it's also contextualized into the now. And I think with all art forms, art form has to evolve. So just like you have traditional music, they evolve, or with dance, and you're seeing in contemporary dance, you're seeing lots of fusions. So for example, someone like Akram Khan, who uses Kathak and Bharanati, some traditional Indian dances, and he collaborates with contemporary and fusing those two together to bring something new. And I think it's really important to savor the identity and the culture of the past and bring it into the context of the now. In terms of actual choreographic device, contemporary is also a really useful tool in terms of, as I said before, speaking of narratives, but also of abstract forms. But it also, in choreographic terms, it can also move you through space a lot more. It can take you upside down. It can take you to the floor, and you're not sort of bound by traditions. You can completely go outside the box, which I guess with certain forms of dance, Dabke, ballet, you have your structure. But with contemporary, you can just break structures, and you can play with, where the audience are, or how the dance is seen. And of course, with Dabke, that's a great thing as well, in that you can take it to the streets. Not all forms of dance kind of change the format of the way you see dance. So I think it's a really useful tool to break can break all the norms and completely transform something.
Maybe I can just add to what Sylvia, because I totally agree with her. In a way or another, if you do research about Dabke practically, the folkloric steps, it's about 20, 22 steps, that we know the names and the shape of the dance. Even it might be different names from one place to another, like here, even in Palestine. And I know it's a big debate between contemporary and modern dance. And well, I think it's more modern, that the things that we are doing nowadays. And okay, it's limited. If you want to talk about a certain topic and you want to do Dabke, you know, within the steps that we already know, it's not easy. Huh? It's really difficult. But the question, does that mean is to isolate yourself from your roots and to do a contemporary that it's like more like European schools, for example, like Pina Bausch School or Martha Graham or etc. And the thing is, how can you do a modern dance, like a dance nowadays that talks about your topics, but without being isolated from your roots? So then the question would be how Dabke could be a language to use it and to develop it. And because Sylvia, she said that it's connected with identity, it's also, as a human being, it's about our identity. It's not just about our grandfather identity. It's about what is me now. And if I want to express myself now in 2020, so it's my identity. And my identity, it's a human being. I can't just keep within this box and keep doing the same steps that people, they already know, and put it on stage. Otherwise, I will be boring. But it doesn't mean that because there's two extremes. Whether I stay with pure folklore, whether I do pure contemporary that's isolated. So the thing is between, it's the folkloric, that it's inspired by folklore. And this is really a research.
Just a quick note, this topic is something that brings a lot of criticism from traditionally minded people in Palestine. So sometimes, like, I'm sure El-Funoun would have encountered these questions of like this is not Dabke, like, or like, you know, dismissing the work that we do, the Dabke that we do, with this like infusion of contemporary as not Dabke, just because it's not like too traditional. But I completely agree that that this is us basically trying to find new meanings and build narratives in dance, and bringing some continuity to the dance, and it's beautiful in that way.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, Shahd. I remember, I think probably one of the first times I met people in El-Funoun years ago, I was having this sort of conversation that I guess that tension that there is of, you know, maybe some people with a more traditional mindset who want to keep things exactly as they were. But the people I was speaking to very much talking about, but, you know, in a way that's freezing your culture in the past, and it's actually like, in some ways kind of stopping it, because you're just remembering it as it was, not figuring out what that means in 2020, like you were talking about, Sharaf, what it means for you as young contemporary Palestinians. And I think as well, kind of, I guess back to what you were saying, Sylvia, as well, thinking about how you're kind of holding those two things together. So it's not like, let's take a different kind of contemporary or like dance from a different culture and kind of like put it alongside Dabke, and that's what we're doing. No, it's like learning from all those different experiences, but as young modern Palestinians figuring out like, what is the modern Dabke, what is the kind of modern cultural interpretation, etc. And it was something, yeah, really interesting and challenging to me, kind of, that it wasn't just let's stick these two things together side by side, but it's like learning from different things, but kind of growing in a new way and creating something new out of it.
I was really sort of connected to what Sharaf, what you're talking about in terms of the identity, and in terms of like being the identity of the individual. And sometimes the identity of the individual is not just, again, not related to the specific context and the country or the culture or whatever the situation may be in that moment, but it's also like the international link and the fusion with the variety of stimulus that you may have, because as an individual, you're growing up, like from the day you're born all the way to now, you're exposed to so many inputs. And with fusing different genres of dance is not just about the Dabke itself or the contemporary elements, but it's also like maybe other ethnic styles. I'm thinking for myself, even like when thinking about Algerian traditional dancing and elements of that, like, and how that shaped you as a person to I guess to show your emotions and who you are and what you stand for and what you want to express. Is that in that fusion that really people can really understand the art for what it is. And we've had some feedback, for example, at Liverpool Arab Arts Festival actually last year, which was very much that. So like that in our performances, so people were very much expecting pure Dabke, because obviously as a Dabke group, like we were showcased as, bringing Dabke, but obviously there were a lot of twists in it. There were a lot of contemporary elements, and at times like daring to do things that no other traditional Dabke group would have done, because that's not typical Dabke. And people in the audience loved it, in the sense that they found that we created something that was really accessible for the audience right there, right now, for the British audience that came to that festival, who wanted to know more about the Palestinian culture, but like they wanted to find out about it in a way that was accessible for them.
Okay. So as a member of El-Funoun dance troupe and a dancer at El-Funoun popular dance troupe, I believe that El-Funoun and other Palestinian partners have succeeded through the years in emphasizing and highlighting the Palestinian identity through pure folklore and spreading it on biggest scale. So I believe that from here came the role of contemporary, as it is another wheel that drives the folkloric identity towards universality, just like a common language. So the Palestinian folklore is finding its way to compete internationally through this combination, and is proving that it's not limited only to a specific geographic area, but it can compete internationally. And also cross borders, no matter what. For example, El-Funoun has a long experience in making a breakthrough by adding new meanings for Palestinian folklore and renewing the language of dance. But at the same time, by merging folklore and contemporary, we are enhancing the heritage in a modern way, without hurting the identity of the Palestinian identity or any other identity.
I'd really like to say something about how this kind of works as an all women's group as well, how we empower ourselves and like to empower other women. So for anybody, dance is a really like pure and beautiful expression, like we all said, of ourselves, our identity. So much can be expressed through dance, through movement. But I think especially for women, because where we are energetically with our femininity, we're much more in our bodies. And if you look at the typical like archetypes of male and feminine, like we need to get out of our head. It's that simple. We need to get out of our heads, out of the more constricted kind of conceptual ideas of structure, and into our bodies, where it's much more of a free-flowing energy and kind of, it's a force to be reckoned with. And I really, I'm so honored to be part of something that is allows that space, allows that energy, and allows creation to come through that, whether it's improvisation or whatever, and just to be around wonderful women that we can like use that as a vehicle, and then to kind of use that to empower other women, to like have it as a platform to encourage and kind of, not just about dance, not just about Dabke, not just about Palestine and the Middle East, but about what it is to be, first of all, a human, and then a woman, and to be in your body and know that you can move, you can be free, you can create, you can like really embrace the chaos that we have, because that really is a lot of what we bring to the table.
Yeah, I just would add just one sentence about, yeah, of course it's about empowering, and it's also about motivation and yeah, giving the voice, and also giving the opportunity to work within a group, a teamwork, and especially voluntarily work here in Palestine in Dabke groups. This is a very important thing, that because we don't have that professional dancers in Palestine, we do a lot of volunteer work, and it's just not just about financial issue. It's also about being motivated and being like having self-ownership towards the troupe that you are dancing with, and also the vision and the mission, whether individually or the troupe that you belong to. That's why there's a lot of dancers in Palestine. They put a lot of hours for their dance troupes, and it's voluntarily based because they do believe in the things that you were mentioning.
Actually, a lot of what we're talking about right now reminds me of a project that we did at the Globe, and I think Serena may want to talk about this a bit more. But it was exactly that. We actually worked with people that had never used or learnt Dabke before, and we also used contemporary to tell their stories. Most of them were either migrants or asylum seekers, refugees of coming from different areas of the world, and they understood exactly what Dabke's role was in terms of elevating them, kind of coming together. It was a women's project, so coming together as women and being able to have a platform to tell their story, but also this kind of unified dance that connected them. And so we really, in that space that we created with these women, we really saw this kind of support of each other, of lifting each other up. And I think that's what dance can bring. And especially when we give a space, an opportunity for someone to express themselves, and we facilitate that. And like you're saying, with the volunteering with El-Funoun, that you're all there to get, that is like the main purpose. For me, that is also the purpose of Hawiyya, is I love it that we are a women's group, and then we've also kind of connected with you guys in Palestine, and it's you know, we're really trying to connect with all people. So not just it is about Palestine and on many levels, but it also goes beyond it, about a sort of a solidarity that goes with every cause.
Beautiful hearing about Sylvia's reflection about the project, the Globe project, and all the women, and that actually brought such lovely memories of recent projects I've done with a group of student activists here who had literally like no idea about Dabke, and most of them were Palestinians, but sadly Palestinians who were born and raised in exile outside Palestine, which is like the story of half of the Palestinian people. And it was so amazing seeing them grow into this journey, like from like barely knowing how to do tashila, like jumping from left to the right, to like doing so many moves, and like feeling as well, like seeing their motivation about learning and about representing Palestine. The whole project came as a response to representing Palestine at an international evening project. And it was just like really beautiful seeing them, how like they connected, how their connection to Palestine grew in the very learning of the dance as well. and it was particularly emotional because most of these people didn't have the privilege that the privilege that I had growing up in Palestine, and that whole experience made them feel like they lived Palestine again, or they reconnected to Palestine. Yeah.
Going back to what we were saying about our project that we did with like different women's, us coming from like being non-Palestinian and sort of deciding to create like a Dabke group came from like the intention of like supporting like Palestinians to fight social injustice. But obviously like there are other people that are fighting different kind of injustice. So we started from Dabke, but then bringing in contemporary gave the opportunity to all these women to like express their own like journeys. So obviously that brought something more onto the table, and it sort of kind of helps bringing like all these different causes together and not just like focusing on one of them.